Hello again, welcome back. In today's video, I will be taking you through our most popular Golden Visa investment options in Portugal as we move into fall 2025. That is, of course, autumn if you're of a more British persuasion. My name is Jonathan. I am your friendly neighborhood Golden Visa specialist. And my purpose here is to educate you on the second residency and citizenship opportunities that may be available to you and your family, and also equip you with the tools that you need to navigate this space with confidence. And in today's video, we will once again be focusing on the Portuguese hospitality sector for reasons that will soon become very clear. Today's video, we will be looking at 3 specific case studies with the same investment counterparty in the hospitality sector. So in order to frame that discussion, we'll need to first quickly recap the qualifying investments for the Portugal Golden Visa. We'll also explain why the hospitality sector continues to be the #1 area of focus for Golden Visa investment in 2025, which is actually a trend that is only deepening over time. After that, we will dive into the core content of today's session by introducing you to the Navigator collection. Now, if you haven't seen that before, this is a hotel chain that is now becoming rather well known due to the attractiveness and flexibility of the Golden Visa investment cases that it offers. It's possible that this is not a new name to you at this point as a result, but what we will do is we will run through a high-level overview of the hotel chain and its business model, also look at their current portfolio of assets, explain the Golden Visa track record to date, and also examine how investor funds are used, why the Navigator is looking to raise capital in this way in the first place, essential background information before committing to an investment. Now, as I say, you may have seen marketing materials on this platform, i.e. YouTube, that extol the benefits of this investment case. I'm not the only one speaking about this among my team, but my intention for today's video is to get a little bit more under the skin of the offer and try to make this as transparent and as easy to understand as possible, because of course, like with any investment, it is not for everyone. Please remember, for the purposes of today's session, this is not financial or legal advice in any form. For tailored advice that is suitable for your unique situation, I would always recommend booking in a free assessment call with me, which you can do via Zoom. There is a link to book this into my calendar, which you can find in the description box down below my head, as per usual. Now, there are, as I mentioned, 3 primary ways to access the Navigator collection investment for the purposes of the Golden Visa. So in today's video, we will be breaking down each one in turn. The first is a fund-based model that requires 399,000 euros of upfront capital. The second is a financed model at 349,000 euros initial capital. And the third and final one is a low cost, but also a lower reward model, which requires 325,000 euros of initial capital. Then, after looking at these, we will of course provide a little bit of balance by looking at the most popular alternative in the market, which are more diversified investment funds at the 500,000 euro required investment mark. As I say, there is no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to making a Golden Visa investment. These are 2 approaches that are fundamentally different at their core, so it is therefore worthwhile explaining the top-line differences to help you understand which route may indeed be more suitable for you. We will then, of course, wrap up with a bit of an update on myself and my company. We've grown quite a bit in recent times, which is very exciting. And I'd love to bring you up to speed on the progress that we've made on this side before we ultimately end today's video. Before we get started, however, you might wish to check out my latest PDF guide for all the key background information on the Portugal Golden Visa. It is free. It's called the Complete Guide to Portugal Golden Visa Investments. It's a downloadable PDF that gives you a detailed walkthrough of the main investment categories that qualify, key considerations on risk, cost structures, security mechanisms, a breakdown of the leading Golden Visa investment options that are available in the current marketplace. Also, how to choose between a fund and a direct investment or other alternatives, and also real figures. So I do include capital requirements, potential returns. Yes, I do actually share numbers in this guide. And we also cover everything that you need to know about graduating from the Golden Visa to ultimately obtaining a Portuguese citizenship in the long term. Now, as I mentioned, you can download this using the link that's in the description box, again, down below my head. Whilst it is free, of course, I will need to ask you for your email address so that the PDF can be emailed over to you. That being said, we do our best not to spam you over here. Kicking off then with a quick refresh on the context as it pertains to qualifying investments. A lot of you will have seen this before, so we'll whip through it rather quickly. Viable routes for the Golden Visa as it currently stands. Firstly, job creation. This category involves creating and maintaining at least 10 positions of permanent employment in Portugal. Rather high risk, rather hands-on, not necessarily the most popular route. Second option is actually less popular. Now that's a donation to research activities. Again, a donation, not the smartest financial planning move for the most part, especially when you consider that it's a €500,000 donation, even if the cause is worthwhile, being scientific research institutions. Next category, another donation, this time at half the price point. So €250,000, 250K, into a cultural heritage initiative or the arts, must be an approved project. Again, not usually a smart play given the relatively high sunk cost involved. Options 4 and 5 is where the majority of people look for a Golden Visa investment. So starting with option 4, investment funds. This requires you to invest €500,000 into a non-real estate investment fund that must be regulated in Portugal via the CMVM. That is the Securities Market Commission for the uninitiated. That fund must invest at least 60% of its assets into Portuguese listed securities. And finally, corporate investment, also known as commercial incorporation. Now here you can invest €500,000 into a Portuguese company directly, and provided that investment is used to create or maintain 5 permanent jobs, you can also qualify for the Golden Visa. Both of these routes now proving immensely more popular than routes 1, 2, and 3. Why? Because they ultimately offer more control over the investment, especially when it comes to return on investment and the ability to build cases with stronger returns, more managed risk profiles is rather attractive when we're making an investment, usually from another country, sometimes on the other side of the world. Now, in today's video, we will be focusing on both of these final 2 categories, investment funds and corporate investment, i.e. commercial incorporation, as there are viable options inside both of these categories. Final point, however, regarding real estate, just in case you're not already aware, real estate investments no longer qualify for the Portugal Golden Visa in any form. That has been the case since October of 2023. Okay. One of the most popular investment areas in the Golden Visa space is the hospitality sector. And there is a reason that the majority of our clients, yes, the majority, are now choosing this route. The first is, the first main reason is track record and relevance. Now, Portugal has a very well-established and robust hospitality sector, as I've mentioned a few times on this channel. It's now actually responsible for roughly 20% of national GDP, which is rather crazy if you think about it. And it's valued at circa 54 billion euros per year in terms of revenue generation. Now, this share of the Portuguese economy actually appears to be steadily increasing over time, which is even more interesting when we consider the relative lack of development elsewhere in the Portuguese economy. Remember, this is not a large country, all things considered. There is a strong argument to keep your investments into sectors where the country excels. Portuguese people watching this will forgive me, but that's not necessarily a large number of sectors in the Portuguese economy. But the hospitality sector is indeed a great example of this. To illustrate this, to illustrate the growth potential and why this is compelling nowadays, if we look at last year's figures in isolation, tourist numbers were up just over 5% for the year 2024. And looking a little bit deeper, revenues generated by the sector actually increased 9% year over year. Which is rather remarkable, especially when you consider the discrepancy. Why revenue is growing at almost twice the rate of the number of tourists? Well, quite simple. The higher revenue growth versus growth in the number of tourists would demonstrate an increasing appetite for higher quality experiences in Portugal. So, of course, more tourists are coming, but they're spending exponentially more. So this is one of the reasons why, as a company, we are tending to focus more these days on 4-star experiences, 5-star experiences, when it comes to investment options in the hospitality sector. Next factor to consider why this sector is standout is reliability. So an interesting fact about the hospitality sector is that it relies on both foreign demand and domestic demand, not just local buyers. And what that does is it insulates it from shocks, makes it a more dependable sector if the Portuguese economy ever begins to stumble. Hospitality has also shown itself to be very resilient in hard economic times. Holidays have proven to be one of the last things that people tend to give up when money becomes tight, especially true across Northern European markets. And of course, this is especially the case in recent years where we've seen consistent growth. The market is now actually operating at all-time highs in terms of revenue generated. So it really is a great time to be playing in the hospitality sector. Number 3, predictable cash flow models. It's very easy to project and chart hotel performance, which in turn means that established successful operators such as the Navigator collection, as we will be going on to discuss, can offer investment yields that are paid up front at the beginning of an investment journey. Now, this is very attractive for investors. Why? Well, essentially, it means that it passes a significant amount of the investment risk onto the hotel itself. If they paid you up front for the investment returns, it means that they then need to justify that through business performance after having already paid you. Lastly, investor fringe benefits, which are rather interesting, not necessarily the core reason why you would take an investment decision, but many hospitality investments do offer additional benefits to the investor, such as free vacations in the hotels that are the subject of the investment. Now, what this does, it allows the investor to meet the 7-day per year physical stay requirement to ultimately obtain citizenship rather easily, and depending on the nature of the counterparty into which you are investing, it can also be in some style, particularly true if we're investing in 4-star and 5-star opportunities. With all that in mind, let's now discuss our most popular investment counterparty here in 2025. Whilst hospitality investments are the most popular sector for Golden Visa investment currently, do bear in mind, not all hospitality investments are worthwhile. The risk level can vary dramatically according to the structure, security mechanism used, and the scope and status of the project that is the object of your investment. We will be discussing a few different options here today, as I mentioned, all of which involve a specific hotel chain that operates across Portugal. This is the Navigator collection, and they hit many of the right notes when we assess a Golden Visa investment for long-term suitability. Now, full transparency here, the Navigator collection is not linked to myself, nor to my company, beyond working with us on their Golden Visa opportunities for investors. Now, we work with a varied range of investment providers for the Portugal Golden Visa and have done so with the team behind the Navigator for many years at this point. There is a good reason for their popularity and a reason that I continue to feature them rather heavily on this channel. So who are the Navigator collection? What is it? Now, that's a fine place to start. This is a hotel chain concept comprising 4- and 5-star hotels across Portugal. Whilst the brand and the concept are only a couple years old themselves, the hotels in question have many years of successful operations under their belt. So we're not talking about off-plan developments or resorts that are still in the conceptualization phase. No, these are completed operational hotels. In fact, across the group, EBITDA for last year, 2024, was in excess of 5 million euros. And just for clarity, for the less experienced among you, EBITDA refers to company earnings before interest, taxes, also depreciation and amortization, if we want to give it its full definition. What you need to know is that this is a form of expressing corporate profits. Now, speaking of EBITDA, the Navigator has ambitious growth targets for the year ahead, looking to push that EBITDA figure out to more than 30 million euros by the end of 2032. There is a clear roadmap to achieving this, which consists of upscaling existing resorts within the chain, adding further capacity to those resorts by constructing new apartments and villas on unused plots, and also by acquiring new hotels. The goal here is to reach 15 high-value, high-margin, premium hotel assets in the portfolio within the next 7 years. Now, with the Navigator collection being a relatively recent hotel chain concept, despite the lengthy track record of the individual underlying accommodation assets, it is important to note the people behind the brand. Now, the Navigator is backed by a group of companies that began life in 2009, date rather famous because this is on the back of the global financial crisis, of course. Now, these were wealthy, opportunistic private investors looking to capitalize on reduced valuations that were available in commercial real estate when markets took a rather significant tumble, some of you may remember. And it is a model that has served them extremely well, most notably during the COVID pandemic of recent years, when very attractive hotel resorts could be purchased for a fraction of their true market value. And that's ultimately how the Navigator collection was born. This is an international group of some weight, with a presence spanning the globe, obviously with considerable presence across Portugal, which is by no means limited to just the Navigator collection. The asset base is a little bit broader than that, but also in the UK, Singapore, Luxembourg, and other countries globally too. Taking a quick look now at some of the hotel assets in the portfolio. So starting with two of the resorts in Alvor in the Algarve. Now, Alvor, beautiful little village right on the water, in between Lagos, Portimao, and the Palm Oasis and Pelican Hotel are actually next door neighbors in strategic locations here. They serve a bit of a different demographic. Palm Oasis, more family focused, Pelican, more adult oriented, but both very high quality assets. Elsewhere in the Algarve, we have Ocean Heights in Olhos de Agua and Olympus Hotel in Vila Moura, a very swanky area in Marina. Ocean Heights was actually offered to Golden Visa investors some time ago under the old real estate category, so long ago now, in fact, that investor buybacks are now taking place. So a great success story there. Olympus and Vila Moura, a more recent addition to the collection, and a fine one it is too at that. Switching focus now into Portugal's largest beach resort, that is Albufeira. We have the older Beach Hotel and the Solacqua Hotel. Both of these 4-star hotels in fantastic locations, right next to one of Portugal's most famous commercial beaches in a thriving touristic hotspot. And the most recent acquisition to the Navigator portfolio is Columbus Hotel and Columbus Apartments and Villas. This is a little bit further afield than the Algarve in Porto Santo in the Madeira Islands. This is actually the largest hotel complex in Porto Santo by some distance, and it really is a jewel in the Navigator collection's crown. You can see the main hotel building. There is that square-shaped complex, and flanked by the apartments and villas just outside. Planning permission, interestingly, has now been granted to add additional luxury villas and apartments to undeveloped seafront land in the neighboring plot, and also recently purchased by the Navigator collection as part of their acquisition of Columbus Hotel. So watch this space. There has been quite a bit of local press coverage about this one lately, actually, and rather a lot of buzz around the growth potential for this particular resort. And if you take a look in detail, you'll see it really is fabulous. Anyway, switching back to more practical terms and the investment itself. So your investment would be directed into several strategic areas for the hotel chain. The first is job creation. Now, when you are scaling a significant hotel chain from a 5 million euro net profit position to 30 million net profit, at least that is the target, as we've mentioned, you need two things. The first, extra capacity, and then the second, extra staff to service that capacity. Now, the Navigator collection has already created hundreds of jobs to date within its resorts and is now targeting an additional 100 plus positions of employment by the end of 2026. That's the extra staffing covered. And now, of course, comes the extra capacity. The first part of this is expansion of existing resorts. So adding new bed capacity into unused plots within existing portfolio hotels, as we've just mentioned with Columbus, for example. By optimizing the asset base in this way, you can, of course, extract greater margins from your existing portfolio. Now, another way of increasing margins is by upscaling the quality of the hotels in your portfolio. Now, this means refreshing interior decors in line with the standard of a premium brand up to 4-star and 5-star level, as we've discussed. The luxury end of the market is where the greatest growth has been seen in recent years, so this strategy is aligned with good market fundamentals. And finally, hotel acquisition. As mentioned, the business model of the group behind the Navigator is to opportunistically acquire undervalued hotel assets at the right price before then scaling them in line with the brand's quality, standards, and revenue strategies over the longer term. Now, ultimately, the target is to achieve 15 high-value, high-margin resorts under the Navigator Collection brand by 2032, as we have already discussed. Now, all of that is well and good from a future planning perspective, but this does bring to mind, at least to me, one of my favorite ever quotes, which actually comes from a bit of a controversial figure, the boxer Mike Tyson, and that is, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. You may have heard that one before. Anyway, what I take that to mean is that your past experience and your ability to weather hard times is just as valuable, and sometimes even more valuable, than a solid longer-term strategy for the future. So now that we've looked at the longer-term strategy for the future, what about the Navigator's track record to actually get to this point? Can they be trusted with your hard-earned money? Well, let's answer this here. The first item to note is that we have been working with the Navigator team for many years now. They have earned their place as a trusted Golden Visa counterparty since our first investor into their hotels back in 2020, and it has since grown into a rather fruitful and now an exclusive relationship. In other words, you will not find this outside of myself and my team here at Holborn, and the exclusive nature of that relationship does bring with it a certain set of advantages that I'm very happy to explain over one-to-one Zoom calls. What you do need to know, however, is that due to the nature of that relationship, we have been able to design an investment case that is, at least in my opinion, superior to a great many alternatives that are out there. And of course, we'll be exploring that in just a few moments. For now, though, it's important to note that the Navigator Collection has a 100% track record of successful Golden Visa applications to date, and also a 100% track record of on-time Golden Visa buybacks. In terms of past cases, we are now into the hundreds of satisfied families going via this route, whilst the hotel chain has just received an injection of more than 100 million euros in private institutional investment. That's a story for another day in and of itself, and once again demonstrating the credibility of the chain. The Navigator Collection is currently targeting a further 20 million in capital raise from Golden Visa investors. Now, this capital raise is taking place at a corporate valuation of 35 million euros, which is 7 times EBITDA. Now, this is an attractive valuation, again, when you consider that many of the industry competitors of the Navigator, such as, for example, Melia Hotels, other household names, are trading in the region of 8 to 9 times EBITDA, sometimes even more than that. So I hope you'll agree that the fundamentals are there for a strong investment case to then be built. If all this about EBITDA, valuation multiples is a little bit confusing, don't worry. I'm very, very happy to provide further explanations, break this down for you in layman terms over a one-to-one Zoom call if that would be easier. But let's not dwell on that too much in today's video. Anyway, with that as a brief introduction to the Navigator, we can now switch focus and look at today's first concrete investment case. This is a fund-based option that gives you a route into the Golden Visa for 20% less initial capital than the standard threshold of 500,000 euros. Essentially, if you have 399,000 euros of investable capital, you can invest into the Navigator collection via this option and receive not only your Golden Visa, but a fixed upfront profit of 101,000 euros for a set term of 6 years. And if that sounds interesting, let's start now with some key facts. This is a qualifying investment as it consists of a 500,000 euro sum being placed into a regulated fund structure that invests into the Navigator collection. As I've mentioned already, there is a fixed investment income paid to you upfront covering a 6-year term of 101,000 euros. Now, assuming that 101,000 euros is reinvested as part of the investment sum, therefore the capital required from your own pocket is just 399,000 euros. So those are the entry terms. When it comes to the exit, this is also fixed at 500,000 euros and it's secured via a forward contract. This means effectively there are no fund fees to pay on the investment, which is a bit of a differentiator in this particular space. This option, therefore, is designed for investors looking to insulate themselves from market volatility by fixing their investment journey. The investment also offers a robust security mechanism, again, the details of which I would be delighted to explain in a one-to-one Zoom call, which makes this ideal for investors looking for a set and forget approach to their Golden Visa. To be clear, the total ROI, return on investment, for this option is 101,000 euros. You essentially put 399,000 euros in and receive the full 500,000 euros back after 6 years. Couple of side notes now. Firstly, investing in the Navigator collection is highly aligned with the purpose of the Portuguese government and the Golden Visa, in that you'll be directly contributing to job creation and the development of one of Portugal's key industries. Secondly, the fringe benefits are also outstanding, with up to 4 weeks free stay in a Navigator collection hotel offered to Golden Visa investors. Do please note that this is, of course, subject to some date restrictions in the high season and is naturally subject to availability. All right, just focusing now on the exit strategy. Why? Well, perhaps the most important part of a large investment like this is exactly that, the exit strategy. How will I get my money back once I have citizenship? What are my options? Well, there are 2 guaranteed exit strategies with this investment. The first, as we've alluded to, is an exit to 500,000 euro cash after the 6-year period is complete. We can also extend these timelines if we need to do so for your citizenship journey. Now, this is a quick, straightforward way to receive your capital back with a total profit of 101,000 euros. So, not bad at all. Alternatively, this 500,000 euros can also be paid in kind. Now, this would mean exchanging your shares, exchanging your fund units, I should say, for the title deed to a compliant asset within the Navigator collection. The added bonus to this is that it gives you the possibility of accessing enhanced returns through capital appreciation on that asset that's been seen during the investment journey. Word-wise, however, this can only happen once you have obtained citizenship and when you don't need the Golden Visa anymore, as you must ensure that you remain fully compliant with Golden Visa laws in Portugal, which of course means no real estate exposure in the investment whilst on the Golden Visa. Now, if this is a little bit overwhelming, please don't worry. You don't have to decide on your exit strategy for the first 4 years. Whilst what most of my clients are doing is sitting back, watching the market, then taking a decision once they've been able to see how well the Navigator collection has been able to perform during the investment term. These timelines have been designed with your peace of mind as the priority. This case is a very popular one with investors seeking that fixed, reliable journey, the set and forget approach we talked about on that last slide, and of course the peace of mind of having an exit that is enshrined in a forward contract with a predetermined valuation. Just to confirm, the return on investment would be 101,000 euros for the term if you take the cash exit, potentially higher if you choose to keep the asset instead. Both of these options are of course guaranteed, secured by forward contract, and just to reiterate, investors into this particular case would receive generous free stay allowances in the hotel chain's hotels. That can be as much as an entire month per year. So not a lot of investments in the Golden Visa space can offer that. Not the main reason for going into an investment like this, but definitely a nice to have. Now, full details are, of course, available on request or via a complimentary one-to-one Zoom call with yours truly, which, again, you can book using the meeting link down below my head. Let's move on to option 2 now, which is a financed option. This is a direct investment into the Navigator collection rather than via the regulated fund structure that we just saw. As a result, this comes with a job creation requirement of 5 permanent positions, which of course will be covered by the Navigator themselves, not by you. You do not have any obligations here. This will be covered by the counterparty. This option starts from a capital requirement of 349,000 euros, which is 50,000 euros less than the previous case we just saw. However, you will note that the impact on return on investment is relatively small, with returns still coming in at an attractive 96,000 euros instead of the previous 101,000 euros. Now, of course, this model is a financed option, so the cash flow is a little bit more complicated than option 1, but this is designed for investors with good incomes that wish to invest a reduced amount of their capital while still obtaining a very strong return profile. So more on that in just a moment. To begin, let's explain just how it works. So the baseline investment is the same. The 500,000 euro investment into the nationwide hotel chain, the Navigator collection. However, this time, instead of investing in fund units, the investment is made in return for non-voting shares in the company. It is a direct investment into the company, not made via the fund structure. But once again, this is a fixed term investment for 6 years, and in return for that investment, you receive upfront returns of the same 101,000 euros. Now, if we reinvest those returns, this brings the capital requirement from your own pocket down to 399,000 euros, as we saw in the previous case. However, here, on top of that, is an additional 50,000 euro loan that is offered to you by the counterparty to reduce the entry point down for you and therefore make this investment more accessible with less liquidity required. Capital required is therefore, of course, 349,000 euros. Because 349,000 euros plus 101,000 plus 50,000 gets us to that total amount of 500,000 euros, which is what is required for us to qualify for the Golden Visa. The terms of that 50,000 euro loan are actually rather interesting as well, at just 5% per year in interest over a fixed 2-year repayment schedule. It's actually a very competitive interest rate when it comes to private financing. And this additional loan facility also demonstrates the robustness of the Navigator as a counterparty as well. Now, in terms of the exit strategy, it's actually exactly the same as the previous option. So either a 500,000 euro cash payout or payment in kind by way of an asset from the hotel chain. Now, we would select that asset together at the beginning of the investment process, and it would thereafter be earmarked for you and you alone. As the cost of the loan is 5,000 euros total, it therefore follows that the return on investment for this option is 5,000 euros lower at 96,000 euros. As there is a lower initial capital requirement, but loan repayments must be, of course, made during the first 2 years, this option is therefore designed for investors with higher incomes, so making those loan repayments is easy, but lower immediate liquidity. And the same 4 weeks free stay applies as per the previous case, which is, of course, very interesting. Now, just a quick side note here. It does need to be said that these options are not for everyone, but this is a viable set and forget option for investors that are looking for a fixed and transparent journey to the Golden Visa. The yields are not life-changing, but they are very high for this sector, especially when you consider the risk management position of this investment. The investment has zero exposure to market volatility, and it also contributes very positively to Portuguese society as well, which is, of course, in line with government objectives for the Golden Visa. It really is a win-win all around. Now, of course, we will not be exploring all of the finer details on this video. We simply don't have the time. But for more information and a free personal assessment on this versus the other options available in the Golden Visa market, again, book in a free one-to-one call with me over Zoom using the link in the description box down below. Moving on now to the final option, number 3, with the Navigator collection. Now, this is the low-cost model. Here, just 325,000 euros of initial capital is required. There are no loan repayments to contend with either. Once again, this is the commercial incorporation or corporate investment category, so it entails that job creation criterion of 5 permanent positions, again, covered by the Navigator as part of your investment journey. As this is a lower net investment threshold than the previous options, we of course need to accept a lower return profile in exchange for that. And this time, unfortunately, the drop is quite considerable as we are looking at a gross return now of 50,000 euros, which is around half the returns that are achievable with the previous 2 options. Now, let's break it down and see if this one may be suitable. The key attraction of this particular approach, as you can see in the subtitle there, is our ability to access the Golden Visa for 35% less capital than your standard 500,000 euro investment. That being said, as we spoke about at the beginning of this video, if we want to qualify for the Golden Visa, we must make an investment of 500,000 euros, unless, of course, we're willing to donate 250,000 instead. Now, Portugal, very clear on this. We must respect that position if we want their coveted Golden Visa and ensure full compliance with any innovative structures that can be used. Therefore, what happens with this investment? Well, we take the base investment of 500,000 euros, again, a direct investment into the Navigator collection in exchange for a special class of non-voting shares. The Navigator collection will then use their investment to improve their business and create or maintain positions of employment across the chain. For this option, the upfront return is set at a fixed 175,000 euros for a 6-year investment period. Now, that sounds high. It is, of course, higher than the previous cases that we've seen. But remember, this 175,000 euros must be used as part of the investment sum in order to then bring the capital required from your own pocket down to that 325,000 euro mark. And as we know, just as important as the entry strategy is the exit strategy. Now, for this investment, the exit value is fixed at 375,000 euros after the 6-year investment period, which of course compares unfavorably to the 500,000 euros for the previous 2 investment options. What this means is that as a result, your total return on investment from the investment case is 50,000 for a net investment of just 325,000 euros. However, if you live in a high tax jurisdiction, such as, for example, the USA or the UK, please be aware tax will likely be due on the 175,000 euros that you were initially paid, not the 50,000 euro net ROI. That can be a significant sum because tax on a sum of 175,000 euros can come out to be quite a figure. So be sure that you seek advice before moving forward with an option like this. Always good practice to seek advice, but just be aware of all the consequences of such a model before you get started. Now, for those of you that are tax resident in jurisdictions such as, let's say, Dubai or Qatar or Saudi Arabia, the matter of tax on investment income is often far less a consideration, which will make this model considerably more attractive. One further note as well is that the free stay allowance, 4 weeks for the previous 2 options, is slightly reduced for the low-cost model at 3 weeks per year. Here, again, date restrictions will apply, and it is, of course, subject to availability. With all that being said, considering the low capital entry point for this particular mechanism, this may appear to represent rather good value, particularly for investors looking to commit a relatively low level of capital and to ultimately avail of a return on that investment, which is not always the case in the Golden Visa market. The ongoing journey is also extremely cash light with this model, as you don't need to worry about any loan repayments, of course. So if you're looking to do this in the lightest possible way from a capital perspective, potentially one to consider. Anyway, that is the Navigator collection covered, and as we've seen, there are different options available to suit different investor profiles. However, not all investors will be suited to an investment with the Navigator collection, and may be better advised to look at more diversified funds instead for a little bit of a wider exposure to Portuguese markets. So in the spirit of thoroughness, let's take a look at that now. First item to note here is that if we look to a more traditional fund route with exposure to market volatility, the upfront investment requirement must be €500,000 minimum. The fund will likely invest into a mixture of stocks and or bonds in accordance with the underlying fund strategy. But regardless, it must invest a minimum of 60% of fund assets into Portuguese listed securities, again, stocks or bonds, and be regulated by the CMVM, the Securities Market Commission. The cost structure is a little bit different when you go this route versus something like the Navigator collection, as entry fees are around 2%, annual management fees of around 1.5% are typical in this market. It will, of course, vary from fund to fund, but just be aware that there will be a cost consideration here. Performance fees are unfortunately also very common, and early exit fees may also apply if you withdraw your capital in the initial years. Again, this will depend from fund to fund, vary from fund to fund. One of the benefits, therefore, of investing in something like the Navigator collection is they do not, the options presented earlier do not carry such fees, but just be mindful of the potential if we go to a diversified fund instead. On the other hand, as we've sort of mentioned up to now, a more traditional fund does give you the ability to diversify your investment across more businesses. And if you select an open-ended fund, you will usually be able to withdraw your investment much more readily than with a fixed investment timeline, such as with the Navigator collection options. Now, that of course has the side effect of giving you a lot more control over your liquidity. So if that's an important factor to you, maybe consider a diversified fund instead. Now, one benefit of market-linked funds is the possibility of achieving higher returns, but remember that you will be exposed to market volatility in the process. Now, if you're not comfortable with an uncertain or a variable investment journey, fluctuations in the value of your investment, then you may look to fix the return profile instead. With all that being said, the right fund for you, it's not usually a straightforward process to identify and select it. So make sure that you speak to a qualified investment professional to ensure that you are in safe hands. Remember, a lawyer is not a financial professional. So in the same way that you wouldn't ask your dentist, for example, about a stomachache, make sure that you take advice from an appropriate specialist in their field. Speaking of qualified investment professionals, now would be a good moment to reintroduce who we are, especially for those of you that are not already familiar. So as you may know by now, my name is Jonathan. I'm one of the partners here at Holborn Assets. I'm based across Portugal and Spain, frequently traveling, as is the nature of working internationally, although most of my work is now in Portugal after Spain ended its own Golden Visa program in April 2025. For what it's worth, I'm currently our top residency and citizenship by investment advisor. Please forgive the rather self-aggrandizing photos on the side there. Anyway, you can always drop me an email for any questions that you have. Always happy to help where I can. You can send that to jonathan.ralph@holbornassets.com. A quick word on our company, Holborn Assets, then. So we've been around since 1998, where we started life helping UK expats to navigate the complexities of international financial planning. Now, we still do that, but we now serve more than 20,000 satisfied customers around the world, working in several markets of operation, looking after more than $2 billion worth of client assets. We've also won a bunch of awards since, including the Top Gong for citizenship services, or rather excellence in citizenship services, I should say, at last year's Investment International Awards. And we are still very proud of our excellent rating on Trustpilot. Now, as far as the Golden Visa goes, our team has now served over 1,000 families, helping them to achieve a more global future placing 300 million euros in Golden Visa investments as a result of that. We still maintain a 100% success rate for Gold Visa applications in Portugal, where we are very proud to remain the #1 agent in the market based on the number of cases processed. And here are a few examples of some of our recent client cases. Feel free to pause the video, have a read if you'd like, or alternatively head over to our Trustpilot page, run a filter on our reviews by searching for my name, Jonathan Ralph, if you'd like to hear from real client experiences. Circling back to the Navigator collection then, just to wrap up today's video, why is the Navigator so popular with Golden Visa investors? Well, for starters, and just like with the first investment case, this is a low-cost investment with no entry fees, no exit fees, no annual management fees. What you see is what you get. There is also no exposure to volatility as you are paid upfront returns covering the duration of the term. And because these returns are upfront, that effectively eliminates performance risk from the equation. You are not exposed to fluctuations in the margins generated by the hotel business. The exit strategy is also flexible, set forth in forward contracts, which offers you the freedom to choose between a quick exit to 500,000 euros in cash, or to remain invested for potentially enhanced returns in subsequent years. The investment case is also fully in line with Portugal's objective of boosting the local economy, given that you'll be directly creating positions of employment in the local area through your investment. This not only ensures a win-win of the model, but knowing that your investment is making an impact in the country where you would ultimately like to become a citizen can be a rather good feeling and worthwhile. The investment case is fixed in these particular cases with a predetermined yield, fully transparent as well, offering an ultra-low capital entry point for this market, making it a very compelling option if you're looking for a budget-friendly investment case. Now, the flexibility offered by the various different models also means that it can be adapted to suit different investor profiles and circumstances, whilst also simultaneously having a minimal impact on the return on investment. Not quite as important, but still nice to have, is the fact that you can stay for free in Navigator Collection hotels if you're an investor in the company. But the real star of the show here is that the investment carries no hidden costs, good returns, no surprises, and also a robust risk management position to boot, given the contracted option of an asset or fixed payout at the end of the term. That said, this investment is not for everyone. This particular approach favors set and forget investors looking to go hunting for higher yields may wish to explore more aggressive strategies instead. Regardless, please remember that this video is for informational purposes only. It is not financial advice, legal advice, tax advice, or any other advice for that matter. In any case, I would not even pretend to offer any kind of advice without first getting to know you, your circumstances, and your objectives. The purposes of this video is just to show you some examples of what is possible within the framework of the Portuguese Golden Visa. If you would like to step back and return to basics, if you need a bit of a refresh on the Portugal Golden Visa, or if you are just getting started with your own Golden Visa journey, I would respectfully suggest that you watch my other fairly recent video that provides an overview of the Portugal Golden Visa program in 2025. In this video, I explain exactly what the Golden Visa is, how it works, the latest news and updates in this space that you need to be aware of. We also explore the process and timelines to expect, and run through the road to citizenship and what you can expect from that experience too. So that would be a good place to start if you're looking for further viewing before going any further. With that being said, if you would like to go further, if you are indeed ready to take the next step, then you can do so here. That would be a consultation over Zoom, as we've already discussed on a couple of occasions. That is completely free of charge. You can book that into my diary using the QR code that's on your screen there. There's also a booking link in the description box down below my head. I'll also pin a comment so that's easy to access. If you're watching this on a mobile phone, you'll need to scroll down and go there. Now, if you made it this far, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you are at the front of the queue for all the latest investments and news on the Portuguese Golden Visa. If you would like more background info on the Golden Visa itself to make sure this is indeed right for you before we speak, you can also check out the video that's in your in-screen right there, right now. Okay, well, thank you very much once again for joining me today. I hope this has been an informative session for you. Have a brilliant rest of your day. Take care, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now.